this morning we want to update you on our efforts that took place last night and some things that we'll be doing, today. Right now, we have a total of 1,321 evacuees that are part of the Chatham County plan that are in our schools at this point, and we have about 150 at Trinity on a Hill of self-evacuees. Today, while we had 5 schools open, we're going to open a couple more schools today, being Glen Hills Middle and Pine Hill Middle School. In the past, we've had more evacuees than we had this time. We've been prepared to take around 3,000. So with those numbers being less, we can adjust some of the evacuees around so that they'll be more comfortable. We can make sure that they're in climate controlled environments to make their stay a little better. We're still can take donations to assist. One of the things that now we're at, yesterday the big thing was pillows and diapers. We still can use those items. A new item today that citizens can assist us with is bath towels. So if anyone, our donation site is at 2163 Central Avenue, and if we can get some bath towels, that would be of great assistance to the evacuees. As far as some convenience and comfort, the Board of Education buses are going to the different shelter sites and doing runs like to Walmart and other places. So if the evacuees want to get out, go to Walmart or other places to pick up some items and then be brought back to the shelter. Those things are taking place today as well. So that's pretty much our update for what things we've done last night. Like I just mentioned, additional shelters that are opening. We're still taking donations if people want to give donations, and that's where we are at this time.
Any word on schools opening back up on Friday?
The Board of Education has not gave us any change on that as of yet. So they closed until Thursday, and at this point they have not informed us that it's going to be open or closed on Friday.
With so much happening in such little time, what do the operations look like at those current shelters? Are you guys having trouble with food, scheduled time for people eating? Are there overcrowded rooms in certain areas? What are the operations and conditions?
The operations, like I said, this is the 3rd time we've done this in 4 years. The operations are running pretty smoothly from that standpoint. There's no issue with food because we're using the cafeterias at the schools. So the food's there, the appropriate lunch times are there. One advantage to using the different locations that we're using, instead of putting all of the evacuees in one location, when shower time is better when you have them spread out, you have more showers to use. If you had everyone all in one location and you had 1,000 evacuees in one location, you can imagine shower time at that point would be a little difficult. So those operations seem to be running well.
So if you have about 1,300 now, are you expecting more?
No, ma'am, we're not expecting any more unless it's a self-evacuee, someone that's driving up in their own car. But as far as the plan that we have with Chatham County, we received the last bus, so we don't expect any more from Chatham County at this point.
Just to reiterate, it was 5 schools open yesterday, then Trinity on the Hill, and then you're doing 2 more, so that's 8 in total, 8 shelters for Richmond County.
Yes, it'll be 8 total.
Were all the schools closed when they all needed to be shelters?
No, it was never the intent to use all of the schools. I think from the school board would definitely have to answer that question for themselves. But I think that once you get to closing so many schools, they just close them all. because of how it affects their whole system. But there was never any intent to fill all of our schools. Only the 8 schools were initially identified that will be used, and we're using 7 of those schools at this time.
What's the partnership currently like with Red Cross? We had some concerns about evacuees at certain shelters who had emailed into us talking about the wait times for eating and things like that. And I know Red Cross is more hands-on in the shelter. So what's the partnership with them like, and what are their day-to-day responsibilities at the shelters?
Red Cross is they're the shelter managers. So the volunteers, the shelter workers, we make sure, we coordinate with the Board of Education to make sure that, we have facilities there. When resources are needed, they call us here at the EOC, and then we contact the state or whoever to make sure whatever resources are needed are there. As far as feeding and those other things, the Board of Education has always done an excellent job in feeding. They already have food there. The cafeteria is there. The kitchen, the cafeteria workers are already there. All of that is already set up. So food is always available. So not only do they get their meals, then they also get snacks throughout the day. And so we have not heard of anything as far as evacuees not being able to eat.
Now they'll have transportation today if they do want to go to a grocery store or anything like that, right?
The Board of Education is using the school buses to take the evacuees to some locations that they have identified that they would take them like to Walmart or whatever, and then take them back to the shelter. The only issue that we do know about feeding is some of our evacuees that got in later last night, then I think there was a pizza run to go get them pizza because they actually got to the shelter after feeding time was over. And then I think that there was a pizza run to make sure that those that got there late had something to eat.
Do you have any idea yet about when these folks might get to go home?
No, no one has given us a definite date. Everyone is still watching the storm. It's moving slower than a lot of us would like for it to move. So as slow as it's moving, if it moved a little faster, maybe it could go on out to the Atlantic. But no one has at this point been able to say you're out of harm's way.
What's your take on how the storm might affect this area?
At this point, we have not heard of any major effects to our area. At the most, at this point, we've heard is you may get rain, but we haven't heard of anything that would prevent or stop operations in our area.
I don't know if this is a good question for you or for Commission or the Board of Education, but there's been a lot of critics complaining about the schools closing and acting as shelters because then kids have to make up days later in the year. Are you all considering maybe next year or the next hurricane switching up the agreement to where the shelters don't come from the schools, but they come from elsewhere?
We'll always do an after action. Every time we have these events, we do an after action so we can discuss what happened and what can be done better next time. Some of those things have been considered in the past. They will be considered again. The key is you have to make sure that you have the necessary amenities that can house and take care of the shelter. So you don't necessarily want to put them in any community center that doesn't have adequate showers. You don't want to put them in, we've often heard about putting them in the James Brown Arena. But can it house all of them? Would that be, putting them on the arena floor, would that be enough that would prevent you from opening another shelter? Probably not. If you open James Brown, you would still probably end up having to open another shelter. And as I mentioned before, logistically, how can you manage, when you put them in smaller groups, it's easier to manage. But if you have 1,000 people in James Brown Arena, how is shower time? You may have 2 locker rooms that they use for sports teams that have showers, but how do you manage that many people at shower time? And is that the most convenient for your evacuees? In addition, you'd still probably need to have another location for your functional medical needs evacuees, so that you can still address those issues. So I do think that it's something that will be discussed, and a decision will be made. The current agreement actually is with Chatham County and Richmond County Board of Education. And so that's the agreement we're under right now, so we still have to operate under that agreement. Our hope is as well, I'm not 100% sure, but we have some understanding that because it's, in a state of emergency, then we're not sure of how many of those days that they'll have to make up or not make up, because it's under a state of emergency, not due to any fault of their own.
Now, when you talk about amenities, would you say that air conditioning is a necessary amenity, or because some of these gyms don't have air conditioning?
There are 2 that don't. Is it an absolute requirement? No. If you have the facilities where you can put them in, then that would make it more comfortable for the evacuees. So based on the available spacing, typically in the past, like I said, this is the 3rd time we've done this in 4 years, we had at least 1,000 more evacuees, so then space becomes a premium. When you have the space, then you can move them where the air conditioning and the amenities are the best. If you don't have the space to do that, could we be in a situation where you'd have to put them in an area where there's not air conditioning? It's a possibility. You would then pull out your cool zones, your fans, and do whatever you had to do to keep those areas cool. If you have the available space where you can put them in comfort, then that's what you will do. And that's what we're doing today.
Last question, what time are Glen Hills Middle and Pine Hills Middle, what time are they opening for the new shelters to bring people over? What time is that?
That will take place, it's probably taking place right now as we speak.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably taking place right now as we speak.
Do you have an idea of how many of the evacuees are children?
Not right off the top of my head. Are there children there? There are children. Specific numbers on that I would not have right now.
Are you preparing to be reimbursed by FEMA, or is it just something that Chatham pays the school board?
The bills, the expense that occurred in Augusta due to the Chatham County plan will be invoiced to Chatham County. And if the president declares and then the governor declares the state of emergency, which the governor has already done, and so if we reach that state threshold of how much money, then Chatham County would then be reimbursed by FEMA at that point. But as far as we're in Augusta concerned, our bill will go to Chatham County.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the community of Augusta when it comes to coming together to help support?
And I've kind of said this several times, just we should feel honored and proud that we can do this. We are assisting some folks on, on the worst day in their life. When we go home after this is over with, we're going to pretty much know the condition of our home. Some of these folks don't necessarily know. We know it's very uncomfortable for them to be taken out of your home, put on a bus, drive 2.5 hours or so away, and then put in a gymnasium or something with people that you don't necessarily know. So I think we thank the community for allowing, because this stuff belongs to the citizens, for allowing this to come in. I truly think it's the humanitarian thing to do. It's helping someone else on their worst days. A lot of the folks that come in that we have to evacuate out don't have a lot, and so to help people in this situation we should feel honored to do so. And then I thank them, the citizens, for allowing us to do that.